In tonight's in-depth coverage, we're once again talking about the elephants in the room. After months of public fighting today, Republicans at the state capitol reached an agreement on the state budget. No one got everything they wanted, but at least in the end, they say all sides can sleep at night and get a budget passed on time with just a week and a half left in the current legislative session. These are the actual handshakes behind a handshake agreement that will form the next state budget. Wednesday afternoon, after a month and a half of fighting and days of public hearings, the House, Senate, and Governor Kevin Stitt reached a budget agreement with just a week and a half left in the 2024 legislative session.
Friction is a good thing. It's a ugly process at times. People got to see all the warts and everything this year. But friction drives a much better product.
The pivotal moment came Wednesday morning when Stitt said he was dropping his requirement that the next budget have an income tax cut in exchange for 4 of his legislative priorities.
And we get this done today, then I will not veto this budget.
The budget agreement means the only tax cut coming to Oklahomans this year will be the end to the state's portion of the sales tax on groceries, which will kick in August.
I believe that will bring the budget agreement in order and everything's agreed to for FY25. Is that correct?
I believe we're in agreement. Yes, sir.
Stitt and House leaders wanted more tax cuts, saying the state budget surplus showed Oklahomans were being overtaxed. But Senate leaders believe once the grocery tax cut kicks in, agency needs are met, and inflation is addressed, there really isn't as much left over as it appears. At the big signing ceremony for the grocery tax, it was, we're done. This is it. Are you not done?
We are. I think I've been very clear on that. Maybe the message hasn't been received.
At the time Stitt delivered his State of the State address, lawmakers were looking at around $13 billion in revenue for this budget, but all budget proposals seen only spend $10 to $11 billion. In that story, we talked about 4 legislative priorities the governor exchanged in place of demanding a new income tax cut. Here's what Stitt got instead of a tax cut. First, funding for his Quick Action Closing Fund, which helps attract major companies to Oklahoma. Stitt also got funding for an account that pays for legal action related to the tribes. The third thing is capping judicial pay raises at 7% and only giving raises to district court judges. And the final one is setting up a framework for what are called business-only courts for dealing with disputes strictly between businesses and corporations. One top Republican missing from today's dealings, but his influence was still all over the budget, is Okemah Republican Senator Roger Thompson. He was removed as the Appropriations Chairman last month at the height of the budget standoff. Senate Pro Tem Greg Treat said even though Thompson was not in the room today, this budget has a lot of his handiwork, including the firm position that the state cannot afford an income tax cut this year.
He has put 6 beautiful and good years into the process. The change that was necessary ended up being good. It worked out to this conclusion here, but that is no disrespect to Roger Thompson, a very good man, a statesman in Oklahoma.
Thompson continues to serve in the Senate just without his leadership position. In the end, these budget talks will go down as some of the most transparent in state history, and it's likely they'll set the standard for future talks. For decades, the biggest complaint about the process that was involved when creating the budget is it's a lot of closed-door agreements, which made it hard to scrutinize until the very last days of session. At the end of today's talks, lawmakers vowed to keep the process open.
I'm very pleased to have been a part of the new transparency process. I know that right out of the gate, whenever you create something new, that it doesn't always operate perfectly, but I think the citizens and Oklahomans are far better off and have a far better understanding, a clear vision of how a budget comes together than they ever have before.
For the last 6 years, the budgets have all come down to negotiations with Governor Stitt and the top Republicans in the House and Senate, Charles McCall and Greg Treat, all 3 in those pictures there. McCall and Treat are both term limited, and new Republican leadership will take over next session. You'll notice we haven't been able to show you any of the specifics about the budget yet. We expect those final numbers to be ready for the public tomorrow. There is a week and a half left in session to get the budget passed before the state's Constitution deadline on May 31st. Lawmakers believe they can make that deadline, and that's while some of them are refusing to work on Monday out of respect for the Memorial Day holiday.